Hi, I'm Stephen Kent Mirassou, sixth generation winemaker and writer. My family started out in San Jose in the Bay Area in California, making wine in 1854. My great 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 grandfather was the first person to bring a lot of different varieties, Pinot Noir, Mourvedre, the French prune tree, to California back in the mid 1850s. Prunes became a gigantic industry in Santa Clara Valley all throughout the 60s and 70s and 80s in California. My family started making wine in California 6 years before Abraham Lincoln was president. So that gives you kind of a context as to how old my family is. Generally, people think of old time winemaking from Europe. And there are a lot of families that are 12 to 14, 13, 15 generations old. My family is 7 generations old now. My son is my assistant winemaker. I've been making wine professionally for about 25 years or so. Started out with the idea that I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to teach college literature. I wanted to write the great American novel. I went to NYU for my graduate degree and realized that once I got my master's, I didn't have 3 years more of school and dissertation writing in me at that point in time. So moved back to California with my wife and 2.5 kids at the time, got involved in doing outdoor maintenance and landscaping for a small company in San Jose until I sort of found a job working for my father, the fifth generation of the Mirassou family. We created a small wine brand called Stephen Kent Winery together. And I started out in the sales end of things. And whenever you're making something professionally, it generally has to be sold in order for you to be able to continue to make this thing. Selling something, marketing it is generally a lot harder to do than making the thing in the first place. And I found that to be the case, still do. But when I first began 1996, I was on the sales end of the business. I was helping my dad sell a brand of wine that he had started with a friend of his after he left the family winery. And it wasn't until 96, 97 when I made my first vintage of wine that the aha moment happened. I knew then that I had found what it was I was meant to do or what I was particularly passionate about or enthusiastic about. It was a sort of a meeting, a matching of enthusiasm, talent, I suppose, desire, certainly. My avocation, my love of wine as a wine drinker became my vocation as a winemaker. And I didn't really start writing professionally until the last couple of years. When COVID first hit, there was some time after harvest to dig deeper into the family history, dig deeper into what it means to be a creative person working in a field that's really hospitality oriented. My company is a hospitality company. We believe very fervently and passionately in taking care of people, in making life a little bit better each day if we can, making it a little bit more delicious each day, adding joy and richness to people's lives. And like writers, winemakers tell stories. They tell stories through vineyards, they tell stories through certain grape varieties, they tell historical stories if they've been in the business as long as my family has been. So there was a real comfort level for me in 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 telling a story in a traditional way on paper, on tapping on my computer every night with the strains of Miles Davis and maybe a little bit of gin in a glass in front of me as I worked, in the middle of the night, creating the story of my family's history, the story of winemaking, the story of hospitality as I see it, what's valuable in the act of creation. And it was an absolutely mind altering and life altering, life changing experience. It was some of the hardest stuff I've ever done intellectually. Just sort of digging yourself out of bad days when the words wouldn't flow. And I had a mentor who was sort of central in helping keeping me on track with that process. But what I found was that this particular project was not itching to get out. It was the beginning of what I hope is the second strand of my creative life and my professional creative life. So I'm looking forward to being able to tell more stories about wine, specifically about certain kinds of grapes, certain kinds of wines that I find to be absolutely magical, and but also writing novels and exploring what it means to convey all different kinds of stories through wine from regions outside of my own, wine from the Santa Cruz Mountains, from Napa Valley, wines from Europe. These two pursuits are bottomless in a way. And I think that the original title of my book was Bottomless, because once you get into wine, whether it's from a consumer standpoint and certainly from a winemaking standpoint, you can never know everything. And the more deeply you get involved, the more passionate you become about that thing, the more you understand what you don't know. And you can never get to the bottom of your appreciation of and knowledge of and exploration of what it means to communicate with, shepherd nature, unruly nature sometimes, into forms that we hope are beautiful, forms that we hope are bottles of wine that create emotions, that help to lubricate social interaction, that help to celebrate new jobs, new careers, new lives, that help to send off loved ones in a proper fashion. So the writing aspect of my life has become extraordinarily important. The winemaking part of my life was already important, and these are the two pursuits that I hope to enthusiastically and aggressively seek fulfillment in as I progress down the road.